Imagine a secret city, not in some remote jungle or deep underground, but buried beneath 1,000 feet of solid ice. A city built by the United States Army, powered by a portable nuclear reactor, housing hundreds of soldiers, with its own hospital, chapel, and even a theater, all hidden on the frozen island of Greenland. This isn't science fiction. This was Project Iceworm. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is the Unexplained Archive. Officially, the U.S. was in Greenland to build Camp Century in 1959. They called it the City Under the Ice, a public relations showcase of polar engineering and scientific research. And that was partly true. But the real, classified mission, codenamed Iceworm, was far more audacious. The Army wanted to use the ice sheet's labyrinth of tunnels to hide up to 600 nuclear missiles, all pointed at the Soviet Union. Greenland, a territory of Denmark, was the perfect, unthinkable launch pad. Think about the scale of this deception. Engineers used a massive, Swiss-made Peter plow to carve out over 2 miles of trenches, which they then roofed with steel arches and buried in snow. The city had a main street, prefabricated buildings, and that small, water-cooled nuclear reactor, the PM-2A, which provided all its power. For the soldiers stationed there, life was a bizarre mix of cutting-edge military secrecy and cramped, sunless routine, with temperatures outside permanently far below zero. They were living in a science experiment, on the front line of a Cold War they didn't even know they were fighting. Because here's the crucial, chilling twist: the ice was alive. It was moving. The engineers of the 1950s vastly underestimated the glacial dynamics. The ice sheet wasn't a stable foundation, it was a slow, crushing river. Within just a few years, the tunnels began to warp and collapse under immense pressure. The nuclear reactor was removed, and by 1967, Camp Century was abandoned. The Army simply left everything behind: the buildings, the infrastructure, the toxic waste, assuming it would be entombed forever in eternal ice. But the ice had other plans. Climate change is now melting the Greenland ice sheet at an unprecedented rate. Recent studies show that the site, with all its abandoned biological, chemical, and radioactive waste, will likely be exposed by the end of this century. This presents a staggering diplomatic and environmental dilemma. Who is responsible for cleaning it up? The United States, who built it in secret, or Denmark, who allowed the research station on their soil without knowing its true purpose? The very ground it sits on is now a ticking time bomb of political and ecological fallout. That's what stays with me. The arrogance of believing we could master a landscape so utterly hostile, and the fleeting nature of our secrets. We bury them in what we think are the most permanent places: deep earth, deep ice, forgetting that the planet is never still. The ice remembers, and it is speaking. Project Iceworm is a ghost of the Cold War, slowly rising to the surface, forcing us to confront the hidden costs of our past. For the Unexplained Archive, I'm Ibnul J. Farabi. This episode was produced by Light Knot Studios. You can find more stories from the Edge of Understanding at https://www.lightknotstudios.com.